House will be in order. For purposes, the gentleman from Massachusetts seek recognition.
Mr. Speaker, by the direction of the Committee on Rules, I call up House Resolution 41 and ask for its immediate consideration.
The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
This was not a protest. This was an insurrection. This was a well-organized attack on our country that was incited by Donald Trump.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
Domestic terrorists broke into the United States Capitol that day, and it's a miracle more people didn't die.
I prosecuted terrorists in the Navy. I was a defense attorney in the Navy JAG Corps. I was a district judge. Just pull up the criminal statute. Look at the criminal code. President Trump's words would even meet the definition of incitement under criminal statutes. The measure before us today sets a dangerous precedent whereby political parties can justify impeachment simply because they do not agree with the president.
Not enough. We will not take it anymore, and that's what this is all about. And to use a favorite term that all of you people really came up with, we will stop the steal.
We as a nation can no longer look away. The president not only incited an insurrection against our government, but has in word and deed led a rebellion.
That's the question here, because it appears that way. The video evidence that's emerging here, it shows many of these rioters had knowledge of the layout of the Capitol, which is very confusing for a layperson, and they came armed with tools and weapons to force their way in. So here's one video that emerged yesterday. It was captured hours into the insurrection, and it really shows this determination that some rioters showed in breaching the Capitol.
We cannot simply move past this or turn the page. For us to be able to survive as a functioning democracy, there has to be accountability.
Hey guys, I've been in the other room. Listen to me. In the other room on the other side of this door, right here where these feet are standing, there is a glass that if it's broken, you can drop down into a room underneath it. There's also two doors in the other room. One at the rear and one to the right when you go in. So people should probably coordinate together if you're going to take this building. Right? We got another window to break so they can in and out easy. And this window here in the lower room needs to be broken.
In his opening remarks, the Democrat chair of the Rules Committee said that Republicans last week voted to overturn the results of an election. Guess who the first objector was on January 6, 2017?
Beginning with the state of Alabama. I read this, he reads this.
That Donald J. Trump of the state of New York received 9 votes for president.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Alabama on the grounds that the electoral votes were not, under all of the known circumstances, regularly given, and the widespread violations of the Voting Rights Act that unlawfully suppressed thousands of votes in the state of Alabama.
Made aloud. Is the objection in writing and signed not only by the member of the House of Representatives, but also by a senator?
President, the objection is in writing, signed by a member of the House of Representatives, but not yet by a member of the United States
In
Senate.
that case, the objection cannot be entertained.
They can object to Alabama in 2017, but tell us we can't object to Pennsylvania in 2021? Pennsylvania, where the state Supreme Court just unilaterally extended the election to Friday?
The ruling by the court, which has a 5-2 Democratic majority, allows mail-in ballots postmarked by Election Day to be received and counted up until the Friday after the election, potentially delaying results.
Pennsylvania, where the Secretary of State unilaterally changed the rules, and they tell us we tried to overturn the election. Guess who the second objector was in 2017? The individual managing the impeachment for the Democrats.
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified because they violated Florida's prohibition against dual office holding.
Debate is out of order. Is the objection in writing and signed not only by the member of the House of Representatives, but also by a senator?
It is in writing, Mr. President.
Is it signed by a senator?
Not as of yet.
In that case, the objection cannot be entertained.
Americans are tired of the double standard. They are so tired of it. Democrats object to more states in 2017 than Republicans did last week, but somehow we're wrong.
Mr. President, I object to the certificate from the state of Georgia on the grounds that the electoral votes were not...
There's no debate. Section 15 and 17 of Title III of the United States Code require that any objection be presented in writing, signed by both a member of the House of Representatives and a senator. Is the objection in writing and not only signed by the member, but by a United States senator?
Mr. President, even as people waited hours in Georgia...
There is no debate. And if there's not signed by a senator, the objection cannot be entertained.
Mr. President, the objection is signed by a member of the House, but not yet by a member of the Senate.
Well, it is over.
Democrats can raise bail for rioters and looters this summer, but somehow when Republicans condemn all the violence this summer, the violence last week, somehow we're wrong.
Question is on order in the previous question on the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, on that, I would request the yeas and nays.
Pursuant to Section 3S of House Resolution 8, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says that if you and the Democrats take the House back in 2018, the first thing you will do is impeach President Trump. Is that true?
No, I believe that whatever we do, we have a responsibility, first and foremost, to unify the nation. Second of all, you can't go down any path without the facts and the law. If that's there, perhaps it will come out in these investigations. I've been, on the left of our party is still annoyed with me for not impeaching President Bush for going into Iraq. What could be worse than that? We've got to really be saying what this election means to people in their lives. Somebody has some facts that come forth about President Trump, that let the chips fall where they may, but it's not someplace that I think we should go.
The yeas are 221, the nays are 203. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Pursuant to House Resolution 41, I call up House Resolution 24 and ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
The resolution shall be debatable for 2 hours, equally divided and controlled by the chair and the ranking minority member of the Committee on the Judiciary.
Madam Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the distinguished Speaker of the House, the gentlelady from California, Ms. Pelosi.
The gentlewoman from California is yielded 1 minute.
In the Bible, St. Paul wrote, think on these things. We bear the responsibility to fill that oath that we all swear before God and before one another. The oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help us God.
That election, our election, was over at 10 o'clock in the evening. We're leading Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, by hundreds of thousands of votes. And then late in the evening or early in the morning, boom, these explosions of bullshit. And all of a sudden,
The president must be impeached, and I believe the president must be convicted by the Senate, a constitutional remedy that will ensure that the republic will be safe from this man who was so resolutely determined to tear down the things that we hold dear and that hold us together.
we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
Those insurrectionists were not patriots. They were not part of a political base to be catered to and managed. They were domestic terrorists, and justice must prevail. But they did not appear out of a vacuum. They were sent here by the president.
Because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong. We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. Lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
With words such as a cry to fight like hell.
To peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Words matter. Truth matters. Accountability matters.
To peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Let us be worthy of our power and responsibility that what Lincoln thought was the world's last best hope, the United States of America, may long survive. My fellow members, my fellow Americans, we cannot escape history. Let us embrace our duty, fulfill our oath, and honor the trust of our nation. And we pray that God will continue to bless America.
I said, something's wrong here. Something's really wrong. Can't have happened.
On January 6th, at a rally that was large, angry, and widely reported to be armed, the president's lies and violent rhetoric reached their crescendo. At that rally, the president took the stage. After reiterating the falsehood that we won this election, and we won it by a landslide, he told the crowd that if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
We've been here before. We've done this before. This has failed before. We've fractured our nation using the same process before. Congress must be the glue that starts unifying everyone. By the time this process would conclude, the man they want out of office will no longer even be the president. If we want unity, this is not the way.
All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to House Resolution 41, the previous question is ordered on the resolution. The question is on adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The gentleman from Ohio is recognized. For what reason?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We'd ask for a roll call vote.
Pursuant to Section 3S of House Resolution 8, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by an electronic device.
I strongly believe that we must reform our election laws to verify the identity and eligibility of all voters and to ensure faith and confidence in all future elections. Now Congress has certified the results. A new administration will be inaugurated on January 20th. My focus now turns to ensuring a smooth, orderly, and seamless transition of power. This moment calls for healing and reconciliation.
On this vote, the ayes are 232, the nays are 197. Resolution is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
The chair announces that pursuant to Section 3A of House Resolution 41, the House Resolution 40 is hereby adopted. The chair announces the Speaker's appointment pursuant to Clause 11 of Rule 10, Clause 11 of Rule 1, in the order the following of the House of January 4th, 2021, of the following members of the House to the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Mr. Schiff of California, Chair. Mr. Nunes of California. Pursuant to Section 5A, 1B of House Resolution 8, the House stands adjourned until 11 a.m. on Friday, January 15th, 2021.
There has been reporting that additional demonstrations are being planned in the coming days, both here in Washington and across the country.
The FBI has issued an urgent law enforcement bulletin saying groups are planning armed protests at the U.S. Capitol and at state capitals ahead of President-elect Biden's inauguration. Also this, Chad Wolf, the acting Secretary of Homeland Security, says he's resigning just hours after he stepped up security in Washington, putting the Secret Service in charge of a national security, special security event a week ahead of Mr. Biden's swearing in.
I want to be very clear. I unequivocally condemn the violence that we saw last week. Violence and vandalism have absolutely no place in our country and no place in our movement. Mob violence goes against everything I believe in and everything our movement stands for. No true supporter of mine could ever endorse political violence. No true supporter of mine could ever disrespect law enforcement or our great American flag. No true supporter of mine could ever threaten or harass their fellow Americans. If you do any of these things, you are not supporting our movement. You are attacking it, and you are attacking our country. Those who engaged in the attacks last week will be brought to justice.
Good evening, fellow Americans. During this pandemic, millions of Americans, through no fault of their own, have lost the dignity and respect that comes with a job and a paycheck. Millions of Americans never thought they'd be out of work. Many of them never even envisioned the idea, are facing eviction, waiting for hours in their cars to feed their families as they drive up to a food bank. Millions have kept their jobs but have seen their hours and paychecks reduced, barely hanging on as well. You won't see this pain if your scorecard is how things are going on Wall Street. Just since this pandemic began, the wealth of the top 1% of the nation has grown roughly $1.5 trillion since the end of last year, 4 times the amount for the entire bottom 50% of American wage earners. Some 18 million Americans are still relying on unemployment insurance. Some 400,000 small businesses have permanently closed their doors. And it's not hard to see that we're in the middle of the once-in-several-generations economic crisis with a once-in-several-generations public health crisis. It'll make historic investments in infrastructure, that Build Back Better plan. Infrastructure, manufacturing, innovation, research and development, and clean energy. Investments in a caregiving economy and in skills and training needed by our workers to be able to compete and win in the global economy of the coming years. Our rescue and recovery plan is a path forward with both seriousness of purpose and a clear plan, with transparency and accountability, with a call for unity that is equally necessary. The bipartisan COVID-19 relief package was a very important first step. And I'm grateful for the Democrats, Republicans, and independent members of Congress who came together to get it done. But I said at the time, it's just a down payment. We need more action, more bipartisanship, and we need to move quickly. We need to move fast. Tomorrow, I will lay out our vaccination plan to correct course and meet our goal of 100 million shots at the end of my first 100 days as president.
We're going into Wednesday knowing that we're ready to do the work. And we've got a lot of work to do. It's not going to be easy. As we have discussed, Joe has outlined our plan for vaccinations, our plan for recovery, and in particular relief. I am very much looking forward to be sworn in as the next Vice President of the United States, and I will walk there to that moment proudly with my head up and my shoulder back.
Good afternoon. Last night, I spoke to the nation about human toll, pandemic, and economic crisis. I spoke about a two-step plan of rescue and recovery and how we must deliver immediate economic relief to those who need it the most. And millions of people, through no fault of their own, are so badly hurting. Millions who never thought they'd ever be out of work, facing eviction or waiting hours in their cars for a meal from a food bank. I talked about how our rescue plan is a necessary bridge to our economic recovery and our ability to build back better, stronger, and more secure. And while crises have caused real damage, I explained how it will cost more, hundreds of billions of dollars, to undo the harm. Vice President Harris and I, we just received a briefing from our COVID team. Truthfully, we remain in a very dark winter. Infection rates are up 34%. More people are being hospitalized because of COVID than ever before. We're up to between 3,000 and 4,000 deaths per day as we approach a grim milestone of 400,000 deaths in America. Our goal of 100 million shots by the end of our first 100 days in office. Some wonder if we're reaching too far for that goal. If you were to ask most people today, they couldn't tell you who exactly is getting vaccinated. What they do know is there are tens of millions of doses of vaccine sitting unused in freezers around the country, while people who want and need the vaccine can't get it. That includes anyone 65 years or old, a population that has accounted for over 80% of the deaths to date. 80% of the deaths to date. We also have to continue vaccinating frontline essential workers like educators, first responders, grocery store workers, etc. If we're getting more people vaccinated, then we need more vaccination sites. On my first day in office, I'll instruct the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to begin setting up the first of these centers. By the end of our first month in office, we will have 100 federally supported centers across the nation that will ultimately vaccinate millions of people. Think of the places that are convenient and accessible: school gymnasiums, sports stadiums, community centers. We've already had productive conversations with bipartisan groups of county officials, mayors, governors, tribal leaders, leaders of the private sector who shared their ideas with us about this effort. And as we build them, we're going to make sure it's done equitably. We're going to make sure there are vaccination centers in communities hit hardest by the pandemic, in Black and Latino communities and rural communities as well. Within the first month of our administration, we're going to deploy mobile clinics, moving from community to community, that will partner with community health centers and local primary care doctors to offer vaccines to hard-hit and hard-to-reach communities. We're going to fully activate the pharmacies across the country to get the vaccination into more arms as quickly as possible. Millions of Americans now turn to their local pharmacies every day for their medicines, flu shots, and much more. We're going to immediately start new major efforts, working directly with both independent and chain pharmacies to get Americans vaccinated. This program will expand beyond access in neighborhoods across the country so that you can make an appointment and get your shot, conveniently show up at a particular time and get it done quickly. We'll use the Defense Production Act to work with private industry to accelerate the making of materials needed to supply and administer the vaccine, from the tubes and syringes to protective equipment. And I've already asked the team, and we have identified the suppliers. We are not changing the FDA's recommendation and its recommended dosing schedule. We believe it's critical that everyone should get 2 doses within the FDA recommended time frame. We're going to make sure state and local officials know how much supply they'll be getting and when they can expect to get it so they can plan. Right now, we're hearing that they can't plan because they don't know how much supply of vaccines they can expect at what time frame. That stops when we're in office. Our plan is as clear as it is bold. Get more people vaccinated for free. Create more places for them to get vaccinated. Mobilize more medical teams to get the shots in people's arms. Increase supply and get it out the door as soon as possible. This will be one of the most challenging operational efforts ever undertaken by our country. But you have my word that we will manage the hell out of this operation.